Well, more on our top story this morning. Those holiday get-togethers you've been enjoying over the past few weeks, they may have been spreading the flu bug along with that good cheer. We want to talk about this with our CBC News medical contributor, Dr. Peter Lynn. Happy New Year. It's good to see you. Very nice to see you. We are having, well, it can be a very difficult situation. It can be a very dangerous situation when you talk about the flu, and we know that there are many centers in Canada that are now reporting a real spike in the number of cases that they're seeing. What's behind the increase?
Well, at this time, everybody gets together. So the virus actually needs our body to make copies of itself. So therefore, it needs to jump from one host to another. So when we got together, we were all close, hugging and touching and all that kind of stuff. And so therefore, that was a perfect way to spread the virus. And remember, the virus really needs to get into your nose system. So therefore, when you're getting close, that's how you get it. And also your hands are touching your face, and that's another problem that we're seeing. So the bottom line is it was a perfect time to spread it around. Now, the other thing is it was quite cold. Yes. So therefore, the heaters were on. You dry out the back of your lining. Now the virus has an easier time getting in.
Receptive. The virus that we're talking about this year, the strain, is H3N2. So tell us about that in terms of its strength and characteristics.
It's been around since 2010, so it's not a new one, but certainly it is moving around, and the H3 strains tend to hit you a little harder. So that's why we're seeing a little bit more people going to the hospital and things like that because they feel worse along the way. But it's not a really crazy strain or anything like that it's new, like the way we had in the pandemic.
Just a little bit more powerful. Who might be particularly vulnerable?
The elderly for sure, because their immune system is not as good. And even if they get the shot, they may not respond to the shot as well. So as we get older, your immune system doesn't respond as well. So that's why we try to vaccinate people around them, so that way we don't bring them the viruses along the way. And the younger children also get into more trouble. When they get the flu, basically they have more complications like pneumonia and those kinds of things. So the two ends of the spectrum are the folks that we're worried about.
So when you say get the shot, it's obviously flu shot. We are just here on the 5th of January. Flu season stretches on for at least another couple of months. Is it too late to get the shot, or should people go ahead even at this point?
You can still get it, and because the testing right now is saying the majority of the viruses is this H3N2, which is included in the vaccine. So it's very interesting. Remember the pandemic, the H1N1?
Yes.
That one is actually very low activity, and that means that over the 5 years or so that we've been vaccinating, we've actually gotten rid of most of that virus. So the H3N2 is included in this year's vaccine, and so therefore it might be useful to still get it because there's still a good 2 or 3 months.
You raise a really interesting point. The last time we had H3N2 as the main problem strain was back in 2014, 2015. Yes. And the vaccine that year, we remember it didn't work very well. It was something like less than 10% effectiveness because there's no universal vaccine. There has to be a good genetic match, correct?
Exactly. So the version of that was slightly different than the one that was in there. There was still some protection, but not as good. And that's why that season was a disaster. But this time around, they're saying that the match is pretty good in the ones that we can test. Okay. So in other words, when we take samples, we actually test for is it H3N2 and all that kind of stuff. But some samples, we can't get that kind of detail. So there may be another creepy sort of virus that might be coming along that's new, but for the moment it seems to be this H3N1.
Although you can still get sick. Do not forget. And to that end, Dr. Lynn's 5 tips. Right. What do we do to try to keep ourselves as healthy as possible?
Yeah, so I think the flu shot is still the first thing, so it'll still give you some protection. Even in a bad year where there's a mismatch, there's still about a 30 or 40% cover, so therefore it's still useful to do that. Number 2 is avoid sneezy people, because basically you need to get the virus into your lungs, okay? The virus on your hands really can't do anything, but if somebody is sneezing, it's now airborne and you can breathe that in, so avoid them. And if you're sneezing, we used to tell people to sneeze in their elbow, but then what do you do right after that? You cross your hands and now you've got the virus on your hands. So the second thing is when you touch other people, other surfaces, don't touch your hands to your face. We used to tell people to wash your hands, but let's say I shake your hand, I'm not going to wash it right away. So just don't touch your hands to your face and the virus can't get into your system. Can't hurt you on your hand, but definitely it can hurt you when you put it up there. If you are sick, then basically stay away, because we don't want you to be coming back and then spreading the virus to other people. And that's really what's happening as people are going back to work too soon. And so if we can isolate these people, then we're going to have less of this virus moving around. So if we do all of those things, then maybe we won't get that second bump. But there will be another second bump coming, sort of around February, March. That's when it's going to hit us yet again.
We may have yet another conversation. I was rapidly taking notes. Dr. Lynn, good of you to come in. Thank you very much. Appreciate that information.
Thanks, Heather.